But here we are with Adam Grundy, supervisor statistician with the U.S. Census Bureau. Over to you.
All right, thank you very much for that great introduction, and I'm very happy to be here with everyone today. You can go to the next slide, please. There we go. All right. So this is a little bit about myself. My name is Adam Grundy, as we mentioned before. I am a supervisor in the Data User and Trade Outreach branch, so I work as an outreach specialist in this area. I have over 15 years experience at the Census Bureau. I've worked on a lot of different surveys. A lot of them you'll hear about today, such as our economic indicators, which help drive the economy. I also lead and coordinate different outreach products, things such as like webinars that you're going to be hearing about today, several different presentations, whether they be in a virtual capacity or in person. And also I've written several different articles for the Census Bureau for a series called America Counts. And I have a bachelor's degree in human studies and a certification in elementary education. Next slide, please. So in today's presentation, I'm going to be giving you an economic data overview about how we're structured in the Economic Directorate where I work, and also the impact on the economy. Next slide, please. This slide, it talks about how we can actually help you guys out with further trainings through our Census Academy site. So we are always available for you guys for whatever your data needs may be, whether that be requesting your own individualized training or getting access to our already recorded data gems and other courses. So this is the main website you can go to is census.gov/academy. Next slide, please. So in this presentation, I'm going to be providing you an overview of the Economic Directorate. Then I'll dive more into our economic indicators, such as our building permit survey, and then I'll provide some scenarios of how we can use construction and housing data development. And at the very end, we'll have a Q&A session to dive into some of the other data user questions you may have. Next slide. So first of all, about us, the U.S. Census Bureau is the federal government's largest statistical agency. We provide accurate, reliable, and timely data to all of our data users, communities, and businesses. So we try to make sure that we pride ourselves on that mission. There's over 130 censuses and surveys that are conducted each year, and more than 50 online data retrieval tools and applications. I'll be demoing a couple of those data tools today, including a data tool called Census Business Builder, or CBB for short. And we have more than 2.8 trillion in federal funding that's distributed to different states, communities, tribal governments, and other recipients using Census Bureau data in whole or in part. Next slide. So this is another way about how we're structured in the Economic Directorate, much like you can have this pyramid that you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. At the top of our pyramid is our high-frequency surveys. These would be things like the Business Trends and Outlook survey, or in the past, during the pandemic, we had something called the COVID-19 Data Hub, which tracked the business activity during the pandemic and also the recovery efforts during the pandemic as well. And then next on our pyramid is our monthly and quarterly surveys. These provide small sample surveys, and they provide the most up-to-date, timely data available. So you'll hear things about like the monthly retail trade survey and also monthly inventory shipments and order survey, or the M3, which help drive and dictate what goes on in the economy. We'll also talk about our quarterly services survey, on other quarterly surveys that we have available for you guys. And then in the middle of our pyramid is our annual surveys that have larger sample sizes, and they may provide the most up-to-date trend data available. So these monthly and quarterly surveys are benchmarked down to the annual surveys, and this would include things such as our annual survey of manufacturers, which is now merged into a new survey that I'll talk about briefly called the Annual Integrated Economic Survey, which will start to produce data in July of this year. And then every 5 years, the censuses measure all businesses and governments, and they provide the most up-to-date comprehensive data available. So we have two censuses in our Economic Directorate on top of obviously the decennial census or the population census. That would be the economic census and also the census of governments. So we're currently in the 2022 economic census cycle, and we're producing data all the way through March of next year, March 2026. And then at the bottom of our pyramid is our foundational administrative data from the business register. And this helps us supplement and produce a lot of different economic products, much like county business patterns and non-employer statistics, which I'll talk about next. So next slide, please. So first up is county business patterns. This is an annual program that covers employer businesses in the United States. As of today's date, the most recent data available is for calendar year 2022. However, the 2023 data will be released in June of this year, in June 2025. And this includes statistics on the number of establishments. So again, the single physical location of a business, employment figures, annual payroll for nearly every 2 through 6 digit NAICS code. And the data are published at several different geographic levels, that is such as national, state, metro area, county, even congressional district, which is the only annual program to do that, produce data at the congressional district level, and also zip code levels. The county business patterns also covers the 5 U.S. territories, and the data are shown by employment size of the establishment, or again, the single physical location of a business, and an LFO, or legal form of organization. Next slide, please. Next up is our non-employer statistics. These cover all the non-employer businesses in the United States or the self-employed persons in the United States. On the left-hand side is a recently released infographic called the gig economy. And this one tracks our non-employer statistics data from 2022. And you can see some of these gig economy examples, such as taxi and limousine services, or real estate property managers, or child daycare services. These would be examples of people that either work a secondary job, or it could be their primary source of income too, to help drive the non-employer economy. And basically, these people have no paid employees. They fill out a 1099 tax form, and that allows us to track that activity that helps contribute to the overall growth of the economy of the U.S. So the non-employer statistics is currently for calendar year 2022. However, the 2023 data will be released in June of 2025, much like county business patterns. And this includes statistics on the number of firms. And a firm is basically just another way of saying a company or a large enterprise, even though non-employers have no paid employees. And we also have revenue from the non-employer statistics and does not cover the 5 U.S. territories. However, it is available at the national, state, metro area, and even county levels. Next slide, please. Next up is the annual business survey. This is a very important survey because it covers employer businesses in the United States, and it tracks our business owner activity. So if you're looking for the number of retail locations by veteran-owned business owners in the state of, let's say, Ohio, the annual business survey would be able to provide that for you. This published on an annual basis, and it is the latest data available for April 2025, is currently for calendar year 2023, and the full data was released in February of 2025. This includes statistics on the number of firms. So again, that's another way of saying company, employment, annual payroll, sales, shipments, receipts, and revenue for nearly every 2 through 4 digit NAICS code. And the NAICS stands for North American Industry Classification System. The data are published at the national, state, county, and place levels. And the data are also shown by the characteristics of the business and their business owner. So again, another example is if you're looking for the number of women-owned bakeries in the state of Florida, we could provide that from the annual business survey. Next slide, please. Next up is non-employer statistics by demographics. So much like we have a non-employers statistics release, we also have the non-employer statistics demographics, which tells us about these business owners of the non-employers. So the latest data available today for today's date is for calendar year 2022, and this data was just released last month. A little bit of a lag here because of our detractor of COVID, which slowed down a lot of the production from the IRS, as you can imagine, with some of that activity. So we're playing catch up a little bit with that, and that'll be coming out as soon as possible for the 2023 data. So that this data is published at the national, state, and metro and county levels, and includes statistics on the number of non-employer firms and their revenue. The data includes non-employer business owners, demographic characteristics. So again, if you're looking for the number of, let's say, women-owned child daycare centers in the state of Maryland. We can provide that from our NESD, or non-employer statistics by demographics. Next slide. And then last up is our economic census before I dive into our economic indicators, which is the bulk of today's presentation. This is conducted every 5 years. It provides the most comprehensive economic data available and serves as a key benchmark for other economic surveys. So we're currently in the 2022 economic census cycle, and the most recent data release was our firm and establishment size statistics, but I'm also going to highlight our geographic area statistics as well. So we had 8.0 million employer establishments that generated 50.5 trillion in sales. And these employed 136.6 million people with 8.5 trillion in annual payroll in the United States. And this is some other categories we have over here at the bottom too. And just a note that the data is always available for free and online at census.gov. Next slide, please. This is our accelerated data release plan. So you can see the data started to come out in January 2024. And I mentioned the establishment and firm size statistics actually was a little bit of ahead of schedule, whereas originally scheduled for June of 2025 has already been released. Next up will be our product statistics, and then our miscellaneous statistics is going to be released in March of 2026 at the latest. Next slide, please. All right. So now the economic indicators. The economic indicators division is a key part of the economic directorate, which helps us with our overall mission of keeping the world informed by providing the first official measures of the U.S. economy. So what do we do here in the economic directorate? This is an area that I used to work in. I used to work in the manufacturing indicator, which is called the M3, or manufacturers inventories, orders, and shipment survey. And we provide a lot of expertise on our economic indicator programs. We compile and disseminate the data, so getting that data on there at the exact time that it's promised. So a lot of our primary economic indicators, that is 8:30 a.m. On those specific release dates. And then we conduct data analysis and analytical research, and we're here to help. Based on whatever you have questions with the data, when it comes out on census.gov on the economic indicators briefing room dashboard, you can ask the questions by contacting us at econ.indicators@census.gov, and we'll make sure that that question is answered in a timely fashion. Next slide. We also have monthly and quarterly snapshots of key sectors within the U.S. economy through what we call the briefing room, and you'll see examples of this next slide. So these are some different examples of economic indicators about why it's important to understand these. So they provide key measures of different metrics of the economy. They gauge our economic conditions. Seeing how the economy is doing on a month-to-month basis is very important for not only economic planners, but anyone that uses that data to see how people are reacting to certain market conditions. And then the economic indicators actually move markets. An example of that would be the M3 durable goods report. Let's say, for example, in the month of March, just as a made-up example, let's say durable good orders went up 5% month over month. That would be a good indicator of a sign of growth in the economy. So that could potentially move the markets and allow people to make the right investments depending on how the markets are responding to the data that's been produced by the Census Bureau. And we have monthly, quarterly, and weekly releases to keep us with the most timely and relevant data available to you. And then we also provide national estimates as well. Next slide. So on this slide, I'm talking about, let me just move this down. I had something covering it up. The 13 principal economic indicators, which are approved by OMB, which is the Office of Management and Budget. So on the chart on the right-hand side, you can see how these 13 principal economic indicators are made up. We have 5 monthly, 4 quarterly, and 4 monthly / highly sensitive. Okay, so these are principal economic indicators are the ones that are scheduled 1 year in advance, and that release calendar is available on census.gov if you want to check out all the release dates or even subscribe to updates when the new data comes out. And with these principal economic indicators, we provide a briefing to our associate director It'll let them know about what's going to be included in that data release, and then eventually that data gets brought down to a briefing room where it would also be available to the president prior to the release of the data, so they can take a look and see what's going to be going on with the economy. Next slide, please. And these are some of our hot topic data items. You can see a lot of different examples of some of the different surveys and programs that we have in the Economic Indicators Division. So this would be included for business profits and formations. You can see on the first left-hand sides, which includes business applications, retailers' quarterly profits, and manufacturing quarterly profits. We also have consumer spending related data from our quarterly services revenue and annual retail and food services sales. Inventories data is available in many of our surveys, including advanced retail inventories, business inventories, wholesale, and advanced wholesale inventories. And then in construction and housing, we have a lot of different examples of some key metrics in our data items, including housing starts, home ownership rate, and even construction spending. And then, of course, like I talked about in manufacturing, which is the area that I used to work in, we have manufacturing new orders for manufactured durable goods, which was a key driver of the economy, and also advanced new orders. And then finally, for international trade, we have international trade deficit in goods and services, and then our advanced international trade release as well. Next slide. So these are some of our primary stakeholders. So the ones that expect the data from us, and they expect the best data quality that we provide from the Census Bureau as part of our mission. So the Federal Reserve Board is one of our primary stakeholders. The Bureau of Economic Analysis, which is also one of our partners that has actually moved into the Census Bureau's headquarters over here in Maryland. And the President's Council of Economic Advisors or CEA. Is another big part that expects the best quality of data from the Census Bureau. The media also expects a certain quality of data. And of course, you, our general data users or heavy data users, we want to make sure that we provide the most up-to-date, timely, and relevant data for the expectations for everyone from the Census Bureau. Next slide. This one talks about the basic dashboard that we have, which is called the briefing room at the census.gov site. So we have a couple different categories. The first one is business profits and informations, which is kind of like a light blue background. Consumer spending is kind of like a teal, and that helps us with guiding to quickly look at, when you go to the briefing room, some of the different examples of some of the different categories we have, whether that be manufacturing, construction and housing, or international trade. So another thing of note is you can do a difference between a graph view versus a table view. The graph view is the default when you go to that main web page of the census.gov/economic indicators. But you can also do a table view if you just want to do a quick list of all the different economic indicators. And then another thing of note is at the top right, you can see another chart which tracks our economic indicator activity over time too. And those gray bars that you see, the first one is an example of the recession, the Great Recession. And then another example in the gray bar over here is the pandemic that was going on at that time too. Next slide. So that's what I was just mentioning. So this is a zoomed in version of that. So the Great Recession coming up of 2008, the COVID-19 recession that we see in the gray bar over here. And then this is just a zoomed in version of what I just mentioned, the Census Bureau Index of Economic Activity. So a lot of words here. So we also have a lot of great data available to you guys. For example, on this dashboard, we have an example of experimental data. That you can see that little symbol at the top just under the word downloads, which allows us to produce other economic data products that are already available to you as well. So this one talks about the current index value versus the previous index value, and that just gives it a brief little snapshot of what's going on. And also on this main page, if you go to it, you can also see that a lot of these charts are interactive. If you hover over some of the different ups and downs on this line chart, it tells you the exact values, so you can get the data that you're looking for quicker. Next slide. And this is another example of a zoomed in version of our wholesale inventories release. So this one was an example from when the data was released in March 6th of 2024. This one talks about examples of our current market conditions in January 2024 versus the difference. So it tells us the value went down month over month, and then also the seasonally adjusted data provided by the billions of dollars for wholesale inventories, what that value was in billions of dollars too. You can also see different little indicators on the bottom, such as pinning a certain indicator to the top of your dashboard, downloading in Excel files, the press release, the most recent press release, the time series data, and also other related information. Next slide. And then this is that chart view that I mentioned before, or the table view that you can default from the graph view. And then this one talks about all the different things you can mention for from a month-to-month standpoint about how things are going for either up or down for the differences for different releases. One thing to keep in mind is taking a look at where it says the indicators, that column there. Some of these are quarterly releases versus some of them would be monthly releases. So that would be an example of some of the discrepancy in the timing for the latest release to the next release. So you see, for example, quarterly services revenue, the latest release at that time was March 13, 2024, and the next release was May 22nd. Again, that's a quarterly release compared to the advanced retail food and service sales, and that was from March 14th to the next one of April 15th. Okay, so just an example of that, and also just to keep that in mind when you're looking at the indicator name to look at whether it's a monthly or a quarterly survey. Next slide. But wait, of course, there's so much more from the Census Bureau, and I'm going to dive into it next. Next slide. So we have a data tool called Census Business Builder, or CBB for short. We're currently in version 5.9. This one, if you're unfamiliar with the data tool, it provides our economic and demographic data onto a map. And this one is provided by a company called Esri, which hosts our Census Business Builder platform, and that's ESRI, as you can see on the right-hand side. And it uses our latest technology. It's cloud-based, and it's provided 100% for free. Next slide. Another part of Census Business Builder is our report section, which provides interactive charts. So you'll see when I go live in just a moment how you can do different bookmarkings and look at single or multi geography reports, looking at our consumer spending data and multiple other examples of data elements that are included in there on these interactive charts that many people use to formulate their own business plan. Next slide. These are the data sources that are in our Census Business Builder. We have our data from the American Community Survey, which is the population survey that takes place in the years that the decennial census is not going on. So those annual surveys of population. We also have business data from county business patterns, which I talked a lot about today. Non-employer statistics, the economic census, and of course our surveys of business owners, which include the annual business survey. We also have imports and exports data from international trade, workforce data from quarterly workforce indicators, and building permits data from the building permits survey. You could actually upload your own data too via our Excel file upload feature. An example of somebody that did this very well was our National Credit Union Association. That what they did was they uploaded all the credit unions in the United States using Census Business Builder, and we helped them walk them through this process using our Excel file upload feature, which is available on our help site on the Census Business Builder page. And what they did was they tracked all the different areas of where their credit unions were, and they used that data in order to figure out what was the best place to either expand their credit unions or service some underserved communities. And then we also have consumer spending data from Esri, which we purchased directly from Esri and put back into the tool for free for data users. And then we have agriculture data from Census of Agriculture, or USDA, and of course our employment data and related data from BLS, or Bureau of Labor Statistics, and quarterly census of employment and wages. Next slide. All right. So now in just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and go live to the data tool called Census Business Builder. If you want to follow along with me, the URL is cbb.census.gov. So I'm going to go there now. All right, so you should be able to see my screen now of Census Business Builder. Okay, so on this data tool, there's a couple different things you'll notice right away. Obviously, we have the map of the United States in the background, but we also have a couple different things at our disposal right away. The first one is that take a tour option. I'm not going to click it right now because I'm a pretty good user of the Census Business Builder data tool, but that one is available for novice users and or people that want to just learn about the most recent functionality updates for Census Business Builder. So in this case, I'm just going to click the X. And I'm going to start by searching by a location. So let's go to where I'm located and for living, which is Montgomery County, Maryland. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select that as my geography. You can do any geography that you'd like to choose if you want to follow along online. Okay. So this one, first of all, tells us about our primary variable, which is establishments for Montgomery County, Maryland. So I haven't set any sectors yet for this. So let's say I'm a prospective restaurateur. I'm going to go ahead and type in the word restaurants to see if I can find some other businesses that are like mine. We recommend starting at the 4-digit level of the NAICS code. You can see that's 7225, and then kind of working your way down to further NAICS codes because there's much more data available at the 4-digit than there would be for other versions of that NAICS code, or 5-digit or 6-digit or so on. Okay, so I'm going to select that 4-digit NAICS code. And once that's selected, it'll repopulate on the map. So what it's doing is repopulating. And I'll see once that custom industries button on the top left changes to restaurants and other eating places, and I've selected it. And now it has taken on the data tool, and now everything that's on the map currently is for the restaurants and other eating places that we can see for the number of establishments and so forth. So the median household income comes from our American Community Survey, percent high school degree and higher, also as an ACS statistic. We have home ownership rates and all employer establishments for this particular category of restaurants and other eating places. Okay. Other things I can do once this is actually done loading is I can change some of these variables on here. So if I was opening up a restaurant, there might be a couple of different things I would want to take a look at. So first one, in case median household income isn't of interest to me for Montgomery County, Maryland, I can change that variable by clicking on that pencil icon. So now I'm going to switch this one to our consumer spending data. And I want to see how much people are spending out on dining out, food away from home. So again, with our example of somebody opening up a restaurant, we would want to figure out how much people are spending out and dining out in this particular region to make sure that it would be a good place to open up a restaurant. While that's loading, I'm going to go ahead and click the change variable for a couple other examples here. So I want to look at some of our demographic characteristics. So if I'm opening up a restaurant and it also wants to have a bar with it, the percent 21 years and over would make a lot of sense to me. Obviously, if I was opening up in a different example, a daycare center, the percent under 5 years old would make a lot of sense for the clientele that I would want to do for a daycare center. But again, for our example today, of percent 21 years and over would make a lot of sense for a restaurant. Okay. Other things I can manipulate is the home ownership rate. Again, may or may not be important for somebody to open up a restaurant. Let's look at socioeconomic characteristics. So I've already put in consumer spending data about how much people are spending on dining out. But let's say I want to see a number of, let's see, percent of workers 16 and over commute to work. So I just want to see an example of how many people are commuting to work, potentially to either hire waiters, hire cooking staff, stuff like that, as an example for my restaurant or other eating places. And once I'm done doing that, everything on the map will start to repopulate. And I can zoom in a little bit here to get a better example of Montgomery County, Maryland. And you can see how this compares in our geo ranking. So 1,773 establishments of restaurants and other eating places. These are the ones that have paid employees. If I want to change my secondary variable, I can click on that gray box over here, and I can change this to business annual, non-employers, and non-employer firms. So this would be like the mom and pop shops that are available for restaurants and other eating places that have no paid employees. They might have people, more than one person working in that restaurant, but they're usually independent contractors. So we have 486 restaurants or other eating places that have no paid employees in Montgomery County, Maryland. These would be examples like food trucks, stuff like that. We also have examples of number of people with paid employees. That's 1,773. Okay, so once I'm done creating everything that I want to do for my dashboard over here, another thing I can do is I can create a report. And that will take me directly to some of the different things you'll see in this. So we already have our example of our NAICS industry of restaurants and other eating places. Next thing up is our map, which talks about the boundaries for Montgomery County, Maryland. The primary variable is our light green coded example of Montgomery County, and the circle that you see is the number of non-employer firms. Other things we have in here is imports and exports data, which comes from our international trade programs. We also have consumers and residents data. So taking a look at the total population from Montgomery County, Maryland. And again, this comes from our American Community Survey 5-year estimates. You can see over here. If I wanted to highlight something on my report and download this, I can go and change some of the different charts on here to percent 21 years and over. And what that does is it changes the graph on the right-hand side. And you can also see on the right-hand side, there's an example that says you can download the data versus a PDF or a CSV file. So depending on your data needs, if you want to just print out a report after you do all the different customization of your charts, you can download this as your own type of business plan as well. We also have socioeconomic data in here. For example, all the percent of workers 16 and over who commute to work. And there's different examples of whether or not they carpool to work, public transportation, or walk to work, or so forth. Anytime you see one of these arrows next to a data element, it means you can collapse that or expand it, depending on what you're looking for. We also have housing characteristics, which comes from our American Community Survey 5-year estimates. Employment characteristics, also from the ACS. Our business summary comes from a lot of different sources. You can see county business patterns, which I talked about today, the economic census, and also our business dynamic statistics. If you ever want to learn more about each of these different surveys or programs, you can click directly on those links embedded in this report. So you can see the example for BDS comes up, economic census, and county business patterns all have unique links in them. Non-employer businesses talks about some of the revenue for these non-employers, and also the number of them. Our workforce data, quarterly business data, our building permits data, which comes from our building permit survey, which is part of the economic indicators, and our business comparison, seeing how these businesses compare to others in all sectors of the economy. So you can scroll down or scroll across, depending on your data needs. And then the last thing that I mentioned before is our consumer spending data. So the default is for these to be expanded already, but if you want to look at some of the different things collapsed into one clean category, you can change some of these different things on here. So if I was opening up a restaurant, I want to know how much people are spending on food consumed at home versus dining out. So I can look at other things on here. So for example, if they're dining out for food away from home, I'd want to know about how much they're spending per year on the average household on by the examples of where this business activity is taking place. So again, this is a data tool called Census Business Builder. The main website for CBB is cbb.census.gov. And then while I have my browser open, I'm just also going to quickly showcase our economic indicators briefing dash room. So this is just examples of things that you saw in that those slides that we were previously provided. This is the live feed of the economic indicators. So I mentioned before the different things you can manipulate on this chart by looking at the different data elements tells you exactly what those data points are. We also have the different business categories by business profits and formations all the way to international trade, all color coded for you. So it's quickly available for you to find the latest release. If you can't find what you're looking for on the main page, there might be an arrow that you can scroll over to the right-hand side. So let's say you're looking for the advanced new orders for manufactured durable goods. You scroll over to the right, it tells you that the most recent release was in April 24th, just 5 days ago, and the next release is coming out on May 27th. Okay, further scrolling down, you can see other different data from the different examples we have over here. And then an example of a briefing room is a difference between graph view and table view. The way you can do that is by scrolling down here. And again, if I want to do graph view, that's currently the default. And then versus table view, this is what that looks like here. Okay, other different information I've got here about RSS feeds and info. If I click on that info button, it just tells me a little more information about the methodology and things like that for those examples of advanced retail inventories. All right, so if we can go back to the slides now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then we can go to the wrap-up portion and do the Q&A. So on this slide, this is just an example of how you can reach out to me. My email is adam.p.grundy@census.gov. We also have many capable staff available to answer your questions at our census.askdata@census.gov. The toll-free number is available here, and you can also connect with us at U.S. Census Bureau for many different social media platforms. Do we have any questions?
Thanks so much for this, Adam.
Sure thing.
If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. We can call on you or send us a chat. We'll keep it open for a couple of minutes. Oh, there's a question that came in.
Sure.
Are we going to get the recording of this presentation? Yes, we will forward this recording to everyone who registered for this webinar. Additionally, there's another webinar, I believe, Adam, that we are all going to participate in on May 14th, or I believe.
Yep.
So we'll provide additional information regarding that as well. Any additional questions? And Adam, I must say, I know I'm off camera, but this is the census show because I think a lot of people may not have known that the Census Bureau has so much information that small businesses could use, the ecosystem that serves small businesses. What are some of the sort of situations where you've been contacted by like a chamber or some organization that provides technical assistance to utilize your services?
Yeah, it happens every day. So as you can imagine, when I do different presentations, whether they be either in person or on a virtual capacity like this webinar, we get different people that reach out to us, either want some individualized training. An example would be that, or some of this National Credit Union Association example that I gave for the ones that wanted to upload their own data into that. We continue that partnership with those people to make sure we utilize some of the different data elements into our data tools and take that direct feedback from some of our key data users and partners in order to make sure that we are providing the most up-to-date data available for them and it's relevant for their own purposes.
Wow, thanks for that. I know the ecosystem truly appreciates that.
Of course.
I know that every couple years we all get something in the mail. We get people knocking at our doors about this thing called census. And so want to just understand, and maybe, you've explained it, but I think, just to bring it on home, how it relates to the small business community. What is the purpose of the census for sort of like small business and stakeholders? And why should they complete a census?
Yeah, so our data is only good as our respondents themselves and the data that they provide for us. So your response to our surveys helps the data only improve in quality. So the more people that we can get the word out there about how, let's say a business survey was sent out on, I'm just making this up, like June of 2025, we would start to promote that through our social media platforms, our main website, census.gov, of course, but also word of mouth too is very important for is developing these partnerships with the community, that they can trust that the data that's provided to the Census Bureau is going to be secure and not shared with anybody without sworn status. And also to make sure that we provide the right data for them, and that we're here to help is the most important thing. If they can't find what they're looking for, we want to make sure that we have the right resources available in order to make sure that they get the data they're looking for and that they understand it.
Well, thank you for that. That's really important. So when's the next census so people can get ready?
Sure. So it depends on which census you're talking about. So
Well, that was going to be my next
the
question too,
yeah,
Adam, because I think we're learning more that there's more than one type of census. So
yes. So
when's the
our
next
current
recent one?
yeah, our current version is the economic census for the economic directorate. That's the 2022. This has data releases going all the way through March of next year. And then we also have our census of governments, which was ongoing. And then, of course, the decennial census, which you hear about in the news more often than not, is going to be planned for 2030. So we're very excited about that. And already in the years that the decennial census is not going on, of course, we have our American Community Survey, which goes on every year. So you may see something in your own mailbox or inbox, so to speak, looking for your response to those surveys.
Wow. Well, we definitely see the importance of completing these census and how impactful it can be for the small business community. So thank you again. I don't see any more questions,
Okay,
but again, people can reach out to you. Is that correct,
absolutely.
Adam?
Absolutely. Yeah. Be happy to help anytime. That's the best part of my job.
Well, thank you, Adam. We truly appreciate you and the Census Bureau team for being here today. We're definitely going to make sure that we follow up and let people know your contact information, everything on this slide here. We know that everybody can't capture it right now, so don't worry, we're going to email it to you, as well as the next conversation we're having in May with the Census Bureau as part of our partnership with the small state business executives. So more to come there. We could go to the next slide. Would like to let people know, as we talked about at the beginning, sorry, it was a little rushed, but we have the regional council leadership positions available. So if you're interested in becoming a leader in your region, please, please, please go ahead and check out this QR code. Additionally, we're going to email everybody too, so you can have this information and more about the regional councils. And the importance of these regional councils, again, is because we have amazing people like the Census Bureau team and Adam that come and present and talk about more specifically topics that otherwise you may not know and how it can impact your community. So please, please, please join us. We love to hear more from you. And our last slide, please. We have a couple more upcoming convenings. We're going to have a convening on July 16th in Richmond, Virginia, with the Federal Reserve Bank there. It'll be from 10 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we're going to head to Boston on October 9th. And we're working with the Federal Reserve Bank there as well. Same time, 10 to 2. So if you're in the regions of these locations, we hope to see you there. And again, you can find more information about this on our website, which is aeoworks.org. And with that, our final slide of the day, we want to say thank you. Thank you to Adam. Thank you to Yemi, to Lori, to the Melissa, the entire team at the U.S. Census Bureau for being here today and collaborating with us to provide you all this amazing information. We want to thank all of you as well, whether you're already a regional council member or leader. We thank you for the time that you share with us, ideas, and also issues that you want to hear more about, where we can find solutions in your local communities. And with that, we want to say thank you all so much for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you guys at our next webinar.